Well, here we are in a rebuild. I'm a little less pissed now than I was, but I'm still pretty pissed. Through 2 games of this suddenly disastrous dumpster fire of a season, there's nobody who's more disappointing to me than Gary Kubiak. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought he knew what he was doing as an offensive coordinator. I thought he was going to give us the best Vikings offense we have seen since probably 2009. And they were okay last week. The key mistakes let the game get out of hand, and then you're playing catch up. Today, that game was very fucking winnable the whole way, really. I mean, basically the fourth quarter was a waste of time, but that game was winnable, and it was a complete and utter failure by the offense. And I'm a Kirk guy. I'm not taking blame away from Kirk. I will get to Kirk. Kirk was not. This was. Strong case could be made that this was Kirk's worst game as a Viking. But getting back to the Kubiak thing, what was his fucking game plan today? What was his plan? We have weapons. We have weapons in the passing game. And all he wants to do is call passes for Adam Thielen. And, it's not a bad thing to throw to Adam Thielen a lot, but, where is Jefferson? When we've seen Jefferson make catches, he's looked pretty good. Where is Irv Smith? Where is the screen game? Where is anything? Right now, this son of a bitch is looking like Norv Turner and John DeFilippo. And the problem I had with both of them when they were here, they seem to be completely unaware of the strengths and weaknesses of the offensive personnel. Because we had offensive line issues then too, obviously. I mean, we've had offensive line issues basically for damn near a decade. But they would call plays that would almost seem like they were designed to highlight how bad the offensive line is. It's like, that's not the goal. The goal is, we all know they don't have a great offensive line. They had a better offensive line than this last year. I mean, they've looked terrible for the most part for 2 games. I mean, they really were bad today. Like, at least last week they kind of were able to pick up the tempo and kind of, they're, this is the garbage time stats. Well, at least they were doing that. They didn't even do that today. Like, the offensive line was terrible. They were good at the start. Like, they were getting some push, and then that was it. Like, and it's not just the Alpha line being replaced by Samia. Samia was bad. Like, it's hard to even tell because it was so bad as a unit. Like, who gets picked out as being the worst. Like, but I don't fucking understand why coordinators do this. And maybe they do it all across the league, but this is the third guy we've had in that position in the Zimmer era who seems to want to show everyone how bad the offensive line is with his play calls. And Kirk was bad. Like, don't get me wrong, Kirk was bad. But I'll get to that. I have a feeling I might be talking for a while here. I don't understand the play calls of Kubiak. All training camp, I bought into the hype because he's talking about we're going to do all this stuff with the line. We're going to have this mobile pocket. Where the fuck is the mobile pocket? They're just having him drop straight back all the time. They're not moving the pocket around. They're not saying, hey, we're going to take the snap, and then we're going to go this way, and then we're going to go this way. No, they're doing nothing. They're not doing a goddamn thing to help Kirk out. They actually got him on. They got him on a one or two rollouts early today. And I was like, oh my god, remember those? Remember how well those worked last year? Why have we not called any of those? I don't understand. What is Kubiak just cashing a paycheck? I mean, we know he doesn't have any desire to be a head coach again, so he's presumably not really caring about putting an audition tape together to get a head coaching job. But is this all he wants to do now with this position he's got on the team? I'm so fucking disappointed in him. And I bought into the hype. I really thought we were going to come into this season, and I knew there was going to be issues with the defense, but I really thought the offense was going to be really, really potent. And they look like the worst offense that we have had since, the fucking Ponder years, maybe. And even those, they, had Adrian Peterson running around. We're not even using Dalvin Cook that much. Like, I don't know. Do they have a game plan? What are they doing during the week? Like, it's just straight drop backs for Cousins so he can get killed. And then, let's run Dalvin Cook straight up the middle every time. Even though he's a shifty back and one of the fastest guys in the league. Get him out in space where he can make some plays. It's so frustrating. And it's the reason I really have lost hope at this point. Because this can't go on. Running their offense like this. But we're 2 games in. It's not like they're going to, trust me, I'm not one of these psychopaths who's calling for everybody to be fired after 2 games. I'm not going to call for anybody to be fired. I'm not even going to call for Gary Kubiak to be fired. Maybe at like mid-season we can call for that, but like they're not going to, and then they're not going to fire him anyway. But I'm utterly baffled by what I saw today from the offense and just from what seemed to be the plan on offense, because it reminded me a couple of those DiFilippo games a couple years ago where it seemed like they went into games just assuming they were going to lose and didn't even try. I know there was the game against the Patriots where they seemed to not even give an effort, and that's frightening to do that in a game 2 where pretty big game coming in. You're 0-1. 0-1 you can easily recover from that. 0-2. Teams can get to the playoffs still at 0-2. Vikings teams have gotten to the playoffs at 0-2, but it's hard. And of course, you're already now 2 games behind both Green Bay and the Bears. So, it's 2 games in. It's already looking like the division is completely gone. And I didn't pick them to win the division, but it's not looking good. But like I said, it's not to take blame away from Kirk. Kirk was not good today. I am a Kirk Cousins apologist, but he was not good today. This was not a good representation of what Kirk Cousins is as a quarterback, and I still think he's a very good quarterback. But this was a bad game from Kirk. I will give him this benefit of the doubt and this break. Horrible job today by the receivers. How many drops? I mean, there were like at least 4 that all would have been first downs, and a couple of them would have been some pretty big plays. There was a big play to Rudolph that he got his hands on, drop. BC drops one, and it clanks off his hands, goes right into the hands of someone from the Colts for an interception. Thielen dropped one that was pretty big, and Irv Smith dropped a pretty big one. Irv Smith, he might be second for disappointment meter so far. But Kirk was not good. And now the stat line is bad. There's no, he didn't even get the garbage time stuff today that people like to talk about. But he was not good. I mean, he was very jittery. He was off target on a couple throws, but 3 picks. Do we need to dissect him? I suppose the first one, he's just chucking a ball up at that point and kind of just kind of like desperation throw to try to make a play. It's double coverage on Thielen, and it gets picked off. I mean, you don't want to make the throw. It was like late in the first half, so it was like, well, you're probably going to punt anyway. What made it worse was that they gave up a long run back on the interception, and they got another field goal out of that. But at that point, it's like, try something. I'm not too upset about it. It's not like it was a great decision or anything, but and then there was the Hail Mary pass at the end of the half, which is meaningless. I mean, that could just as easily been knocked down and just been an incompletion. Third one was the one off of BC's hands that, was just a horrible play by BC. So Kirk was not good though. I mean, he was very jittery. The safety, the one last week was not Kirk's fault. It was a blindside blitz. He had no chance. This one, he had to get that ball out of there way quicker than he did, and he didn't, and he got crushed. So, the 1-8 was definitely on him. But, there's the people who use every single game as a complete referendum on Kirk Cousins' entire Vikings tenure. Those people salivate at a game like this. Honestly, they're probably stroking themselves right now because Kirk Cousins was bad, and his stat line was bad too. So they're as happy as a pig in slop. But Kirk is not the problem. He's certainly not the A problem. Even in a game like this where he was bad, he's not the A problem. Really didn't get much from anyone else on offense today. Cook was all right, but they're not really using him that much. I don't know what he ended up with. I mean, they gave him a couple runs late, which was weird because you're down by multiple scores late. But when the game mattered, he didn't get many carries at all. He probably had he may not even have had like 10 carries going into the fourth quarter, which is bizarre to me. And maybe they just don't trust the run blocking, but the run blocking on the first drive seemed pretty good. That seemed to be actually working all right. But so, really nothing from any of the receivers. I wouldn't say any of them had good days. Balls clanging off of hands, and they missed on a couple of the big plays. Rudolph, one, was a drop. Then there was a pretty big play to Irv that got called back because the fucking defender fell down and they called OPI on Irv. But I'll get to the refs, believe me. Offense was awful today. I mean, 11 points and no touchdowns that mattered. Last week they still at least scored when it was theoretically a game. Today they didn't. Total failure offense today. Defense, this will be a controversial take. I thought they were a little better today. It's kind of what you would hope to see from, kind of a young defense with a lot of guys kind of working their way through stuff. It was like incremental improvement. They were a little better, 28 points. Granted, there was a drop touchdown in there, tough catch, but it's still a drop touchdown, and there were a couple of short fields in there too. But I mean, the defense was a little better. They weren't great. They were still getting gashed on the ground by that fucker from Wisconsin. But they were a little better. Like, you could at least see on that side of the ball, okay, it's, like I said, it's never going to be as bad as the Green Bay game, and it wasn't. Like, they got a couple of pressures on Rivers, and Ngakoue got a strip sack, which we didn't get the ball, but at that point it probably wouldn't have mattered. So they got an interception on a nice play by Smith, kind of breaking up a pass, and then Eric Wilson caught it. That's just, and there were a couple of bad calls there too. There was a freaking PI on Holton Hill that was not PI at all. There was a terrible call on Gladney where all he did was check the guy at the line and they called PI or something. It was just, refs were fucking terrible today, but it kind of became such a lopsided game late that you can't even blame the. We don't even get that out. We don't even get to blame the refs. I mean, the call against Irv on the PI killed the drive. That was huge, but I think they were driving. It was 7-3 at that point, and that killed their drive. But I mean, I don't know. These fucking refs, man. They were calling every fucking thing they could. And they called a lot on both teams, but it really makes for bad football. But yeah, defense was just Barr got hurt pretty early. He was out for most of the game. Nobody really stood out. I mean, they haven't had really anybody stand out on defense yet. But I mean, like, if you got the potent offense going, you could have won this game today, because you would have had longer drives. You would have had less opportunities for the Colts to score. I almost called them the Chargers because of Phillip Rivers. Rivers was not great. Like, he was just kind of ordinary. But it sucks, man. We are. It's not just that they're 0-2. They are a bad 0-2. They are very much worthy of that record. And again, they're staring at a really tough opening schedule. I mean, they got Tennessee next week. Back here, it's a winnable game, but it's not winnable with what we saw today. And then Houston and Seattle on the road. So, but it might just be that rebuilding year, and we hate to have to concede that sort of thing 2 weeks in, but I mean, it sucks. It's not even technically fall yet, and we're saying that the Viking season might be over as far as any sort of contention goes. It's just, that hasn't happened in a long time. We've been kind of spoiled around here. We've been at least fringe contenders for a lot of years in a row, and it might not be the case this year. And I've got experience watching bad Vikings teams, but some of these people who are losing their fucking mind, I don't understand the contradiction. They want to tank the season, but then they're getting pissed off at every mistake in a loss. So, which is it? Do you want to tank the season? Are you rooting for the tank, or are you rooting for the Vikings to win? I'm very, very confused about some of that stuff. But I mean, trust me. As far as the tanking goes, one, they would never intentionally tank. Two, tanking doesn't work. It doesn't. Sometimes you lose and you luck into a player, but for the most part, losing just begets more losing. It's not good to lose games. So I think just might be one of those years where it's more about the progress. Like, I was getting some very big 2002 season vibes, and that was a season where they started the season so bad. They were 0-4. I thought they were heading for 0-16. They looked like the worst team in the history of the NFL. But then they improved. They had a young roster that year, and then they improved, and they ended up finishing 6-10. And they went into the offseason looking like, oh, we got something here. This is a team that's going to be back on the rise. Hopefully that's what we get this year. And I'm not totally writing off the season yet, but it's hard not to after seeing this and seeing just, again, the failure of Gary Kubiak to take advantage of the offensive weapons that we have, because I don't care what your thoughts are on Kirk Cousins, but a team that has Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph, Justin Jefferson, and at least a passable offensive line as of last year, should not ever look this bad. And it's not like the Colts are an unbelievable defense. They're an alright defense. They got some players, but you should never look this bad, ever. And that's the frightening part, is if you want to hold out hope, it's going to have to come from some big improvement on the offense. Last week it was like, okay, well, the offense wasn't great, but we needed, that can win you games. We need the defense to improve. Well, now this week the defense improved a little bit, and the offense just went in the absolute tank. So now, who knows what we're even going to see next week? I don't know. I don't know if this team might come. This team could come out next week and win convincingly. I don't even know. But it's already looking like the only hope we would maybe have would be a wild card, and even that, you're going to have to obviously play a lot better than this. But I don't know. It's just not a very pleasant Sunday afternoon, and kind of neither one has been to this point. So hopefully things will look up a little bit. Like I can stomach a rebuilding year. Like, if you got to have one of these kinds of seasons, this is the year to have it, because no one's going to be going to any games. So it's not like you're trudging out to US Bank Stadium to watch a terrible team play and probably get killed. Like, no one's got to do that this year. But so it's like, if this is going to be just a rough rebuilding year where they maybe finish with just 3 or 4 or 5 wins or something, at least there's that slight solace that you pick the year where no one can go to games, at least not here. So at least the 2,500 or so Colts fans were happy today. But yeah, it's rough. I mean, I didn't have like the sky high expectations for this team, but I certainly thought they'd be better than what we've seen on offense. And people are I already know. I can already imagine what everything is going to be said about Kirk Cousins. Like, people just have to get over the fucking Kirk hate. Like, he wasn't good today, but he's been good more than he hasn't been good here, and he's a very good quarterback. And if he's utilized well, which he damn sure ain't being utilized well so far this year, he can win you games, and he has. So it's not even a thing where I'm like, siding against Kirk or anything like that. It's just, it's all bad. Everything's bad. Everything is awful. I guess that's about it. So yeah, 28-11 is your final score. Colts beat the Vikings, and at least it's a nice day. Get outside, go enjoy some of this nice weather here before the cold winter with no Viking playoff games arrives. What did I say? I don't know. I'm spent. See ya.